Yay or Nay Show with Alex C. A sports show for sports fans by a sports fan. And now, here is Alex C.
All right, here we go. It is the Yay or Nay Show with Alex C., a sports show for sports fans by a sports fan. A little under the weather today, so if I sound a little funny, I will apologize up front. Meanwhile, let's get right to it. Devin Booker entering health and safety protocols for the Phoenix Suns. So that means in tonight's game against the Blazers, you will be minus Devin Booker, minus Chris Paul, who's out 6 to 8 weeks. So just wanted to, again, let you know, breaking story, the Phoenix Suns are going to be without the services of Devin Booker, who is now in health and safety protocol. Meanwhile, staying with the NBA for a quick minute, there's a story out. I thought the headline was interesting. I'm like, I got to talk about it because I was actually thinking this before I ever saw this headline. It says, beware buying into James Harden's honeymoon phase with the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, here's how the story goes. Exactly 13 months after James Harden confirmed in his introductory news conference with the Brooklyn Nets that they were on the top of his list and the Houston Rockets helped him facilitate his preference, the 10-time NBA All-Star told reporters upon joining the Philadelphia 76ers, Philly was his first choice. Now, Harden reported a training camp out of shape in 2020 and 9 games into last season declared his Rockets not good enough. His Houston teammates publicly described his behavior as disrespectful, but that did not stop him from dubbing himself an elite teammate and an elite leader upon arriving in Brooklyn. Now, fast forward, Harden again reported out of shape this past October, and it did not take him long to feud with his Brooklyn teammates. You saw how Kevin Durant handled Harden at the All-Star draft. That did not stop Harden from calling himself one of the best teammates that the NBA has ever seen upon arriving in Philadelphia either. Does that sound familiar? Just keep in mind what I said a few moments ago. In other words, trusting Harden's hot start on the Sixers is to ignore everything we just saw on the Brooklyn Nets, which is very true, because this is what I was thinking before this story ever came out. Look, we've seen this before. We've seen this play out before. In Houston, everything was great. It was all good. It was all unicorns. It was beautiful. You couldn't ask for more. Then he goes to Brooklyn because Houston's not good enough. Brooklyn, it's all unicorns. Everything's great. It's all good. Then they run into some hardship. James Harden doesn't do well with adversity. Wants to bail. Bails. Lets it known, by the way, that he wants to bail. The same way that he let it be known in Houston that he wanted to bail, right? Out of shape, finding reasons to not play in games. And what did he do in Brooklyn? Same exact thing. And believe me, I got a funny feeling it could happen and repeat itself again in Philadelphia. So now he's in Philadelphia. But again, we're at the beginning of the honeymoon. All right, we're at the very beginning of the honeymoon. It's all unicorns. It's all hunky-dory. They were his first choice. That's what he said about Brooklyn. So, folks, beware of James Harden. That's all I'm saying. Don't buy into this if they don't have success, if they don't come out of the East, if they don't eventually, probably I'd say by next year, win an NBA title. Do not be surprised to see James Harden become disgruntled once again. That's all I'm saying. All right, moving over to the NFL because we got a lot of stuff to get into today. There's a story that says Packers are in negotiations with Aaron Rodgers' camp on an NFL record contract. Remember, there's a story that Aaron Rodgers reportedly wants upwards of $50 million a year. Now, keep in mind, Aaron Rodgers did come out on Monday and say that he's not looking for it and that the reports are false. However, the people who are reporting this, very knowledgeable, very reputable. I personally find it hard to believe that the stories are not true. And let's face it, we've all heard from Aaron Rodgers before, and we all know how much we can believe what comes out of Aaron Rodgers' mouth. He was vaccinated. Remember that? Just throwing it out there. Here's how the story goes. While the NFL world waits for Aaron Rodgers to make his intentions known, front office execs are battling for position to make a run at the 4-time MVP. Now, it's no secret that the Denver Broncos and GM George Patton covet Rodgers, but wrestling him away from the Green Bay Packers will require a significant number of dominoes to fall in just the right way. Now, looking over the shoulder at what other teams might do is part of the game, and Patton knows that a hot market for Rodgers translates to a bigger price tag to acquire him. Rodgers might opt to stay put in Green Bay. He could retire, or obviously he could request a trade. Now, Ian Rappaport is reporting that the Packers GM Brian Gutekunst is putting together a record-breaking deal in the event of the veteran quarterback deciding to stay. This comes on the heels of Green Bay hiring Rodgers' old quarterbacks coach Tom Clements, with whom he won a Super Bowl back in 2010, in an effort to woo him back into the fold. I don't know that that was that big of a deal. I really don't. I think maybe it was more for familiarity. I have a hard time believing that the management and the ownership of general of the Green Bay Packers believe that Tom Clements is going to help Aaron Rodgers make a decision to stay. I just don't see it. But that's just me. But the bottom line is there's a lot of questions in regards to Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, it is going to be a big carousel. There's going to be a lot of teams looking at him. So far as the report goes, as of this morning, nobody has actually called Green Bay to inquire on trying to make a run at him in any way, shape, or form. However, everybody right now is currently in Indianapolis. They're all there for the combine. Now that everybody's at the combine, we're going to see a lot of deals get struck. Matter of fact, there are even some, noteworthy deals coming out as we speak that we're going to be talking about here in a few moments. So you're going to hear a lot coming out this week about deals. Maybe, just maybe, teams are waiting for the combine week, which is here now, to have discussions behind closed doors, hoping that, they could have closed door discussions and the stories won't necessarily get leaked out. But, they probably will. But they're probably going to, again, try and have them there in an effort to try and keep them as quiet as possible. Meanwhile, there's another story out. Vikings GM Kwesi Adolphus is talking about the Kirk Cousins decision. Now, this is what we've got going on with Kirk Cousins. There's a lot of stuff that is going out about Kirk Cousins. Is he staying? Is he going? Are they interested in taking calls? Are they going to move him? What's going to be happening? There's a lot of different stories. So I'm assuming that, they came out and they decided to make a statement in regards to hopefully try to quell some of the questions in regards to what's going on right now. So here's how the story goes. Again, in Indianapolis, where else would they be, right? With his mentor, Andrew Berry, looking on in the crowd, Kwesi Adolphus, and hopefully I'm saying that correctly, took the podium as an NFL general manager for the first time at the 2022 NFL Combine yesterday. Now, the Combine is about evaluating draft prospects, but it's also about a lot more than that. With free agency and the start of the new league year rapidly approaching, the Combine kicks the offseason into overdrive. Executives, coaches, and scouts from all 32 teams, along with draft prospects, player agents, media members, and other football people, descend on downtown Indy for a week for a multitude of reasons. It's a crucial time for people like Adolfo Mensa and the Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell to have face-to-face conversations with other teams and key agents as they prepare to dive into the offseason. Now, the Vikings' new GM, who has been on the job for just over a month, but has already accomplished a lot, spoke on a variety of topics to kick off the Combine week, both at his televised podium appearance and in a side session with the Vikings beat writers shortly afterwards. And yes, the number one topic of interest was, who else? Kirk Cousins. Now, how could it not be, right? No decision facing the Vikings brain trust on Adolfo Mensa and O'Connell will be more impactful than the one they end up making regarding their polarizing starting quarterback. The theme we saw in Adolfo Mensa and O'Connell's introductory press conference continued on Tuesday. They like Cousins and have a vision for what he can accomplish in a new offensive scheme. But they're also obviously not going to come out and say that they absolutely want to sign him to another lucrative extension. And again, there's been a lot said about the language that has been used in regards to these pressers that they have done because they haven't really come out and said, yes, he's our guy. This is who we're going to center our team around. We're going to build around him. We're looking to get an extension and possibly talk about what our vision is for the future. They haven't had any conversations like that in any way, shape, or form. And a lot of people are trying to pick that apart, saying the reason that they're doing that is because they're not sold on Cousins. And if somebody came and gave them an offer they couldn't refuse, they would more than likely be happy to take it. They just believe, though, that there's a lot that somebody would have to give up in order to get Kirk Cousins. and they're not necessarily of the mindset that they believe that somebody is willing to do that. They could be right. The market could be open for Kirk Cousins. We'll have to wait and see. But a lot of people in the national media are trying to pick apart the fact that they just haven't come out and, solidly shown that they are committed 100% to Kirk Cousins. Another story that's coming out, and this is a question that's been going on since he retired, right? But here is another piece of yet the puzzle. I'm talking about Tom Brady. He recently retired. Everybody was saying, is he going to come back this year? Then you got other people that are saying, well, it won't be this year. He'll probably come back next year. He's got to stay retired. And then if he stays retired, he can come back next year. And I believe he'd be able to pick and choose, who he wants to play for. But if he wanted to come back this year, he'd have to get some help from the Buccaneers in regards to doing so. If he wanted to move to another team, they would have to be able to sign off on it because there would have to be accommodations made towards the Buccaneers if that were to actually take place. And then there's some people to say, then the reason why we're having this discussion is because you got to look at his age. It's not like he can sit around for 2 or 3 years and really wait because look how old he is. So there's a lot of variables involved. Now, I personally don't believe Tom Brady's going to come back. I don't think it's really a question mark in regards to whether Tom Brady's going to come back. But again, there are a lot of people having the discussion. And this is the way the story goes because I thought some interesting things came out when it came to this particular story. And again, the headline reads, Bruce Arians, Buccaneers won't accommodate Tom Brady if he wants to play for a new team. Now, here's how the story goes. Tom Brady is retired unless he isn't. In recent days, a sense has emerged that he specifically has retired from the Buccaneers and that he'd perhaps like to play somewhere else. If that's the case, Buccaneers coach Bruce Arians won't be inclined to facilitate any such attempt. Arians told reporters at the scouting combine on Tuesday via Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times, bad business. Asked what it would take to get Brady, Arians said 5 number ones. Brady may have a different opinion, especially since he originally signed a 2-year deal before extending it by a season in 2021, primarily for cap reasons. Also, it ultimately may not be the head coach's call as to whether the Buccaneers show gratitude to Brady by making it easier for him to leave if that's what he eventually wants. Arians doesn't believe that's what he'll eventually want based on what he said when he asked whether the door is open on a Brady return. He slammed it shut when I talked to him, Arians said. Of course, Arians may not have the best ability to read Brady. Arians, after all, went from saying he'd be shocked if Brady retires to just a few weeks later saying he'd be shocked if Brady comes back. It's Brady who said never say never, and more importantly, that he isn't sure how he'll feel when June or July roll around. Bottom line, if he decides he wants to play for a new team, Brady will find a way to make it happen, and the Buccaneers shouldn't try to stand in his way. Of course, they're writing this story, and rightfully so, from a fan's perspective, and you got to appreciate that because one of my complaints yesterday was what? One of my complaints yesterday was that when you're looking at sports radio, when you're looking at sports writers, when you're looking at sports TV shows, they're all geared towards the players. Give them the bag. Everything's about the bag. It's all for the bag. And just to cap on that conversation that we were having in regards to this yesterday, the reason why I said that it's all about the players, all about getting them the bag, all about, everything being about and for the players when it comes to sports radio, sports TV, and sports writers is because it's a symbiont circle. If there's more for the players, if there's more for the coaches, there's more for people on the side of radio, TV, and writing as well. Perfect example was after I got done with yesterday's podcast, I remembered there was something in the back of my mind. It kept flickering on and off like a light switch. And I'm like, man, what is it that's bugging me about this? I said this, but what is it that's bugging me? And then it hit me. And I went and I did some research and I found the story. And the story was, I said, and again, let me reiterate it one more time, that it's a symbiont circle, right? If you're getting nothing but the bag for players and coaches, right? And you're getting that money away from the owners, then because it's a symbiont circle, it translates on the other side of the spectrum when you're talking about news reporters, TV reporters, radio show guys, and all that. And where I'm going with this is it comes out when you look at a deal that's being struck when you talk about Troy Aikman and his new deal that he got with ESPN, 5 years, $90 million. Players getting more money, coaches getting more money. Now broadcasters, especially guys who are former NFL players, are getting more money. 5 years, $90 million with a 4-letter network for Troy Aikman. Now there's even stories, reports, rumors, whatever you want to call them, about another former NFL coach, Sean Payton, going to Fox, who he's getting courted by. Not a done deal. Obviously, again, reports, stories, rumors, whatever the case may be. However, there are reports, however, that the money that he would be offered would be upwards of $100 million plus for Sean Payton. So again, that's why I always say, be careful where you get your information from, because again, when you're talking about sports TV, sports radio, sports broadcasting in any way, shape, or form, they're always about the players, and they're always talking to the players. They're not talking to the fans. That's why they don't talk to anybody on their shows. They don't take callers. They don't do any of that. And when they do, it's a couple of quick callers and then boom, they're gone. But it's very rare when they do that. And they don't talk to anybody on social media. And all they ever do is insult people on social media. And who are the people on social media? It's the fans. That's why my show exists. That's why this podcast exists. I am a sports show for sports fans by a sports fan. I am all about the sports fans. I have nothing against the players. But again, I do think there are areas where fans and players have a big gap between them, like players trying to get paid more money all the time and fans having to then flip the bill, higher parking prices, higher concession, higher ticket prices. And we don't want to go down that rabbit hole today. We've already done that a couple of times, so I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But the bottom line is there is a big gap when you're talking about the information that's being furnished by all of the networks. So when I see a story like this, where I got a beat reporter who's writing a story, and the story seems to be from a fan perspective, and it's a respectable place where I'm getting this information from, by the way, which is Pro Football Talk, I find that refreshing. That is my whole point. Again, because the national media, sports-wise, is all about the bag so that they also can enjoy more money as well. Because, again, that's why Troy Aikman, 5 years, $90 million. Now you're talking about $100 million possibly for Sean Payton, former coach of the New Orleans Saints, now allegedly, as the report goes, looking at a career broadcasting for Fox Sports. So again, it's a symbiont circle, folks. You always have to follow the money. And these guys don't speak to you. They speak at you because they're mainly speaking to teams, players, managers, owners. That's who these sports radio and broadcast guys most of the time are talking to. That's why they use language and they talk about things that you don't know anything about because you've never been in the front office. And that's why they're always insulting you, because you've never been in the front office and they're trying to have conversations that are above you. And they're trying to talk about terms that you've never heard about and you never knew about because you're a fan and you've never been in the front office and you've never negotiated a contract as an NFL player or a Major League Baseball player or whatever the case may be, because they're only talking to these players. It's like it's a symbiont circle, and this is their way of communicating with each other. And again, and you're always going to find the sports media in the favor of the players and the coaches, because if they make more money, then it translates to the other side as well. That's why you got to deal with Troy Aikman now making a move from one network to another, 5 years, $90 million. Speaking of deals, let's talk about this. Major League Baseball makes what it says is its final CBA offer to players. Now, before I get into this story, I want to tell you this. I don't think that's true. Let's be real. They're going to have to get a deal done. Somebody's going to have to bend. It's obviously going to be both sides. It's going to happen at some point. And that's just the reality of it, right? So don't get the wrong idea when I tell you the story is all about MLB making what it says is its final CBA offer, because they're obviously going to have to get behind the desk one more time, and maybe two more times, maybe three more times. But they're going to have to go at it again and again in regards to negotiations. They're going to have to get a deal done. Nobody can afford to go a season without baseball. Let's be real. That's not going to happen. And we're not going to see a season where we're going to watch scrubs watching baseball. That's just not going to happen. We're not going to watch a year of baseball with scrubs playing. I can tell you that right now. It's not going to happen. All right, so here's how the story goes. Talks broke down between MLB and the MLB Players Association on Tuesday afternoon, leading the league to declare that it will make a final offer for a new collective bargaining agreement before 5 p.m. Eastern time. Now, MLB's final proposal, which was delivered before 4 p.m. yesterday, featured an increase from $25 million to $30 million in pre-arbitration bonus pool each year for the length of the deal. While the union wants to begin with $85 million in the pool and go up by $5 million each year on CBT thresholds, the league's last offer remained the same as its previous one, which started at $220 million and was flat for 3 years before going up to $224 million and in year 4, and in $230 million in year number 5. The union wants to start at $238 million with raises to $244 million, $250 million, $256 million, and end at $263 million. The league also increased its proposal for minimum salaries from $675,000 to $700,000, moving up $10,000 per year. Those figures are based on there being an increase to 12 postseason teams and the addition of 5 lottery slots in the draft. We thought there was a path to a deal last night and that both sides were closing in on the major issues, a league spokesperson said on Tuesday afternoon. They couldn't make it by the deadline, obviously, so they're done. They've got nothing right now. And now you're looking at a season that automatically has no spring training, and they have now decided that they are going to scrub the first 2 series of the season so far, because that's what we're looking at right now. Major League Baseball has canceled the first 2 regular season series after the MLBPA rejects the league's final proposal. And they didn't just reject the proposal, by the way. Let's put that into perspective. They unanimously rejected the proposal. Unanimously. The players' union rejected the proposal. So they're not really any closer. Not if they're unanimously saying, we're not taking this proposal. So I'm just telling you, it's not going to be too much longer. It's going to be a hot minute. We're probably looking at maybe another couple of weeks of negotiations, and then I think we're going to get somewhere, but we're just not there yet. A lot of people, got things to say about the delay of the opening of baseball and how they don't like it. They don't agree with it. We're going to get into that a little more tomorrow. For time's sake, I'm going to bypass this. I did have it scheduled for today, but I'm going to bypass this for now because I want to get over to the NFL really quickly. We talked about Aaron Rodgers. We talked about him looking for his $50 million deal. We talked about Green Bay putting together a package that they hope will be agreeable to Aaron Rodgers if he decides to stay in Green Bay, providing he doesn't retire and providing he doesn't ask for a trade. Now we got another guy we talked about yesterday, kind of went down a rabbit hole with him, and we're talking about Kyler Murray. Now, before we get into Kyler Murray, though, we got to talk about this. Look, the Arizona Cardinals, first of all, they've made nothing but mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. They're not one of football's premier organizations in the NFL. Anybody who's followed the NFL for a while would know that and would agree with that. I don't think anybody would really disagree unless you're a Cardinals fan, of course, obviously. Not trying to offend any Cardinals fans. Not trying to say Cardinal fans don't know anything about football. That's not what I'm saying in any way, shape, or form. What I am simply saying is that, let's be honest, you're not winners. You're not winners. You're not really competitors. Every now and then you kind of show up, and that's kind of about it. You're not a perennial in any way, shape, or form. So when I look at this, I'm like, dumb. That's the first word that came to my mind when I saw this. The Arizona Cardinals, they extended general manager Steve Keim and head coach Cliff Kingsbury through the 2027 season. They didn't just give them a 1-year extension. They extended him to 2027. Now, Cliff Kingsbury, a guy who always, year in and year out, as a college head coach, as an NFL head coach, first and foremost, he's a 50% winner. Secondly, his teams start off hot, and then they fall apart badly. That's what Cliff Kingsbury has produced as a head coach in college, as a head coach in the NFL. And again, I said it when they hired the guy. It was a bad decision to hire him. I don't understand what you see when you got a guy who's a 50% winner and his only accomplishment has been to get fired from his alma mater in college football as a head coach. And you think some way, somehow, that guy who managed to get fired from his alma mater as a head coach in college football is somehow the recipe to get you to the Super Bowl as a head coach in the NFL makes no sense to me in any way, shape, or form. It's a mystery how they believed that was going to happen. But that was due to the bad general manager, Steve Keim, who, by the way, got an extension along with Cliff Kingsbury, like I said earlier, to 2027. Steve Keim, a guy who's produced nothing, done nothing. Matter of fact, his number one accomplishment is getting busted for drinking and driving in Arizona and going to jail. That's his number one accomplishment as the general manager for the Arizona Cardinals, getting busted for a DUI and going to jail. There's the accomplishment that Steve Keim has as the general manager of the Arizona Cardinals. That is pretty embarrassing when that's the only accomplishment you have as a general manager of a team in the National Football League. That is absolutely pathetic, absolutely embarrassment. Yet they give him an extension to 2027. I don't understand it, but that's how it works here in the 602. Again, we can have this conversation a million times over. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again, but Arizona ball clubs do a horrible, horrible job of running teams. And here is another example of a horrible, horrible job. So when you look at the fact that they made this nightmare happen, you got to wonder what's going to happen with the new nightmare, which is Kyler Murray. But before I get into that, let's see if there's any details in this story about the extension that was given to the two men. I'm looking through it now, just trying to see. I don't want to go through what they're trying to call their accolades or whatever the case may be, because we all know that's a bunch of garbage. No, they don't give any details in regards to the contracts in any way, shape, or form. So again, all they're telling you in the story is that they got extended through 2027. I think it's a mistake, but here's another mistake they're getting ready to make, I'm sure, because I think Kyler Murray is backing the Cardinals into a corner. I think that even though Kyler Murray is immature and he's made a lot of stupid moves, and there's no way to be politically correct or nice with this, Kyler Murray has been immature, and basically that's the bottom line. You erase everything from your social media in regards to the football team that you are the captain and the starting quarterback for. And you erase everything from your social media in regards to your football team. Then you go quiet, you ghost everybody, and then all of a sudden you get a statement released, and your statement is talking about how you definitely do want to be the long-term quarterback for the team, and you desperately want to win a Super Bowl, and then you list a bunch of quarterbacks that you believe should be comps for what your contract should consist of, and yet Kyler Murray has achieved absolutely nothing, zero, zilch, nada, as a starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. He's produced nothing. He's won nothing. He's done nothing. And this guy is acting like he needs to get paid like everybody else. And he still has 1 year left on his current deal. And I think the Cardinals, they could strike back, but they're not going to. But they could, but they won't. And I'll get into why they won't here in a moment, because there's yet another story about this fiasco. But they could, because what they could do is say, you're going to play out this year, like it, love it, hate it. You're going to play out this year on your current contract. And next year, we're going to franchise tag you. And then we'll talk to you in a couple of years in regards to an extension if we find you worthy to get one. That's what the Cardinals could do. That's what the Cardinals should do. But it's probably because of how badly and poorly this organization has been run. Proof in the pudding. They've already given extensions to Steve Keim and to Cliff Kingsbury. I bet they cave, and I bet they give in to Kyler Murray. Here's how the story goes in regards to what I have in front of me. Hang on. I'm just looking at something real quickly. Something came across, and I just want to make sure I'm not missing it. Okay. So the story reads, Arizona Cardinals brass, Kyler Murray's agent was doing his job with his statement on the contract. That's the way that the headline reads. The story goes, neither Arizona Cardinals general manager Steve Keim nor coach Cliff Kingsbury have talked to quarterback Kyler Murray since his agent Eric Burkhart released a statement early Monday morning that explained how a detailed contract proposal was sent to the team. Keim and Kingsbury said Tuesday at the NFL scouting combine. However, both felt it was just a business move by Burkhart, who also represents Kingsbury. The Cardinals head coach said he didn't know the statement was going to be released. I have not talked to them in a few days, but there's always been current dialogue, Keim said. The one thing I'll say is in regards to the statement, I know everybody's seen that. I think it's an agent doing his job. I have a lot of respect for Eric Burkhart and obviously Kyler Murray. From my standpoint, like it's always been moving forward, any kind of speculation, any negotiations, any conversations, and dialogue will be certainly held confidential between the three of us. Keim doesn't think Murray would sit out this season if he doesn't get an extension and isn't concerned that the offseason saga may have repercussions for the quarterback. The Cardinals plan on picking up Murray's fifth-year option, which would be a moot point if Arizona gives Murray an extension this offseason. Keim, however, wouldn't budge on questions about extending Murray. When asked if he felt the need to give Murray an extension this offseason, his response was terse. I told you I won't get into that, Keim said. And when Keim was asked if he's seen enough from Murray during his first 3 seasons to warrant an extension at the level that some of the NFL's elite quarterbacks, such as Kansas City's Patrick Mahomes and Buffalo's Josh Allen, received, Keim refused to discuss it publicly. Look, they're playing the game of politics, right? Kingsbury can't say anything because he's represented by the same guy that's representing Kyler Murray. Keim, now that he's locked in with Kingsbury all the way till 2027, can't necessarily rock the boat right now either. They're kind of back in a little honeymoon period here. Plus, they're both probably riding high off the fact that they both just got extended. But I think the bottom line is again, the Cardinals hold all the cards here. They do. They could just pick up the 5th-year option. They could slap him with a franchise tag, and then they could talk to him in 3 years about whatever's going to transpire in the future for the Cardinals and Kyler Murray. I don't think they're going to do that. Kyler's put this out to the court of public opinion. I don't think Kyler's winning that public opinion poll at this point, and I have a poll, by the way, up on my Twitter page at Yay or Nay Podcast, asking that very specific question in regards to how you feel about what Kyler Murray's doing and should he, in fact, get an extension. I got a poll up there now. Still a little bit time left on it. Go answer that poll question. I'll give you the results tomorrow. But I don't think Kyler Murray is winning in the realm of public opinion. But because I believe the Arizona Cardinals work from what I call a fear of loss, I think you're going to see the Arizona Cardinals fold. I think they're going to give in. I think you're going to see Kyler Murray get an extension he doesn't deserve. And I think he's going to get paid an amount of money that he doesn't deserve to get paid. But I honestly think that's what's going to happen. I really do. I don't see this going any other way. I think that's exactly how this is going to play out. But again, we'll talk a little bit about Major League Baseball tomorrow because, like I said, there are some people who have an opinion in regards to opening day being delayed. There obviously will be more going on with Kyler Murray, more stories, more reports, more stuff coming out from the combine. So we'll definitely get into that tomorrow. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. This is Yay or Nay Show with Alex C.